Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another horror review. As you can see, I'm not alone. Hello, Chris.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Colin.
John here. You've probably seen Chris on the channel, giving us plenty of support, which I'm always eternally grateful for. But Chris is also a role-playing buddy. If you've seen links I've shared to the Dragonlance saga, we have been on that for a few weeks during a campaign and had a lot of fun. So
Awesome. I had so much fun with that. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the internet and this level of connectivity that just brings people together with a common interest. We can all have a laugh. And I think it's good to highlight that, especially with so many Muppets out there that just want to cause trouble and start fights. I think it's always good to remember people can actually talk and meet and have a laugh and enjoy each other's company. It is allowed.
Exactly. Big fan of the show. I'm not a huge horror fan, as you know, as we talked about, but I have seen some, and I like more of the the comedic style ones. Like Evil Dead 2 is probably the hardest I've ever laughed at a movie. So I do like that genre, and big fan of the channel.
Oh, well, thanks. I wanted to talk to you about that actually as a non-horror fan, and that's not in a disparaging way, because one thing I want to do with this channel is actually encourage people to give horror a go, because horror gets panned for some weird reason, and I don't know why. It always gets looked down upon by the general audience. Never understood it. But what's your first impression when somebody says to you there's a new horror movie or there's a new horror book coming out? What's your first impressions?
So yeah, there's a few categories that I automatically think of. I do think of like low budget, like slasher, like scare, like you walk around the corner and like a cat jumps out of you, like that kind of like that style.
Jump scares. Yeah,
the jump scare style is not particularly for me. I'm overweight. I don't need to give the ticker that much that much of a jump. But so that particular style, kind of is not for me. But there's this whole other genre like Evil Dead, or the movie we're going to talk about today, where it's like comedy / horror. I think those are a lot of fun. So that style I like, but I don't see a lot of those these days, right?
No, I think as well, and I've talked about this in the channel before, people have lost their sense of humor.
Yeah.
People have become so uptight and wound up and caught up in activism, whatever side of the fence it might be. People are so caught up in that they've actually forgot that you can have a bloody laugh and enjoy yourself. It's allowed. And it's almost like we're living in a Puritan age. It's not Puritan, religion, but it's that sort of age of burn the witch. They're enjoying themselves. It must be evil. Oh, how dare they? It's mental. It's people have problems, like seriously greater problems with their thinking these days. And I think it's good to, like, people like yourself who understand having a laugh and not taking the world too seriously is vital, because you put yourself in an early grave if you don't have a good roaring belly laugh every now and again. Just generally let it out. Why are you even alive? Yeah,
definitely. Life's got enough scares and in reality, you just have to have some fun, laugh while we're here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the horror comedy genre. It's a subgenre of horror. It's been around as long as probably the first movie I can think of is Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. And yes, I'm showing my age, but that was the first horror comedy I ever came across.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. It still holds up. It's still funny.
Yeah. Those two, and you had Bela Lugosi, and you had Boris Karloff, and you had the Wolfman as well, I think. And that, God, I need to dig that up again. I think you had all the Universal monsters, as many as they could get in, going around that. Yeah. And Abbott and Costello doing their routine, and brilliant. The next one that came along, I think, would have to be the Addams Family, the original TV series. But they kind of played in that sort of role. That's where they took the spookiness of horror and brought it to the sort of mainstream, but making it that yeah, we're different, but we're happy. You know, what's your problem?
Right, right. I just watched recently during Halloween Monster Squad. See that one from the 80s?
Oh,
I watched that
oh
with
God,
my
I
son.
haven't seen that in
The, the
such a
two of
long
us were
time.
hysterically laughing. Wolfman's got nards. Where he kicks the Wolfman in the crotch.
Oh, that was the whole God 80s. You know, like the Lost Boys and the
Yeah,
Goonies and all those type of movies. They were
yeah,
they were, and this movie we're about to talk about, Killer Klowns from Outer Space. This is so 80s it hurts. Like you couldn't get more
yes.
80s in this movie.
Yeah.
And
I loved in the 80s how anyone who did anything wrong, like necking, as they used to call it, they're
oh yeah.
instantly gonna die, right? Like anyone who like did drugs or unprotected sex, like you just know, like right away they're gonna. That was like the 80s from the beginning, like who's gonna survive, and then like
It was weird.
the kid in the restaurant, she's gonna be safe. They never in the 80s they never crossed that boundary.
Yeah, there was a weird
The innocence
morality
of
and
yeah.
God, I don't even want to talk about it, but the Scream franchise kind of went meta with that, and I just they poked at it. We knew it was there. Sometimes you don't need to be beaten over the head, and with that movie they just did, they beat you over the head with it, and it's like, yeah, but no, the whole point is being subtle. It plays out in front of you, so you can make up your own mind. But
Right.
that's been lost now. That whole idea of subtle storytelling or the nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Let's have a laugh at it. It's gone now. I hope we'll get it back. I hope we'll get through this period of non-creativity, I'd say. I hope we'll come out the other side. I hope the big companies lose enough money that they finally have to take stock and realize that it's not a good idea anymore. That
Right.
just blandly go through stuff. Not everything's a conveyor belt. Not everything has to be a Happy Meal squashed into the same box. It's just, let's have a bit of fun again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you would know more than I because you're exposed to movies, but the few that I have seen in that genre, you're right. Everything has an agenda. Everything is political, and yeah, I agree with you. Get back to some creativity and some fun. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's exhausting, man. It really is, and that's why I've given up. I've kind of shrunk into the horror genre because this has been going around, and we've all been weirdos and outcasts since the year dot, so it's nothing new. But I've watched fantasy get destroyed. I've watched sci-fi get destroyed. I've watched comic books, superheroes get destroyed by this blandness. I can only say that's just washed over everything. That's the problem. You've got maybe 3 companies owning everything.
Right.
As well. That's down to that. When you've got like 3 major companies, they own everything that's creative based. You're going to get that because everything just goes down the corporate pipe, and it's just not there. And they're all going to protect their own interests and their jobs. It's not about discovering people anymore.
Right. Makes sense.
But
yeah,
hopefully you have to remain positive though, and that's why I've got movies, I guess, to look back on, just to remember how daft and fun movies can be. But they put a lot of effort into it. I think. I don't think this was a throwaway movie.
Yeah. It was interesting. I remember as a kid watching this and being absolutely terrified. And I probably haven't seen this in about, 25, 30 years. Watching it, it's it's a completely different experience. It's hysterical. It's hilarious, but it's also, it also holds up. I mean, aside from the special effects, it also, I thought it had its moments as a horror movie. There's definitely some concepts that are pretty terrifying about this too,
Mm-hmm. Well, I think actually, in terms of, because there's some things I've seen where the effects are just awful. Actually, I got the Omen collection, and that first movie, like the beheading, that was terrifying when I first watched it. But now you look at it and it's a rubber head, and it just looks, bad. But I think the difference is that's trying to be a frightening movie. Because this is a comedy, you can kind of get away with the effects not being up to par.
Right.
But the animatronics in this are amazing. You look at those costumes.
Yeah, I was going to say
you think of the anima.
Yeah, the actual costumes, you're right, were still hold up, still terrifying. And yeah, I think this definitely preyed on definitely perpetuated that for a whole generation.
Yep. A fun fact: the most expensive piece of equipment that they created in this was the popcorn gun at $6,000. That was the most expensive piece of equipment. Everything else is cheaper. That gun, so they could get the gas in it to shoot the popcorn the way it did, was the most expensive thing and the most time they spent creating something. And it was in 3 scenes.
Yeah. That is crazy.
So that
wow.
kind of gives you an indication of the budget of this thing. And I don't know. I think there was effort. There's definitely effort put into this. And they wanted to tell a good story and they wanted to have a laugh. And you can feel it when you're watching the movie.
Yeah, for sure. It did well too. I looked it up. I'm sorry. I was going to say it did well too. I think on a 1.8 million budget, I saw that it did 43 million, which is pretty impressive. I'm surprised they didn't do a sequel based on that.
Do you know what? I was going to leave at the end, but there's been talk and rumors about sequels and remakes, and it's like, just leave it alone.
Yeah.
This exists in its own little bubble. It's a classic. It's a cult movie. And you can sell enough merchandise and retrade. You can make a 4K version. You can do box sets, and people will buy it. And I think you get more value out of that than some. Like, for a fact, if they redid it, it'd be CGI. All the effects would be CGI, so the magic of the animatronics would be gone.
Right. Yeah.
And that's true. I think that's maybe part of the problem with modern storytelling. We know that it's done on the computer screen. And before it was like, how did they pull that off? That was part of the magic. Like a magician, you go to a magic act and it's a trick, but you don't know how the trick's performed, and you're wondering in the back of your mind, how did they pull that off? Right, that was kind of the early magic of cinema, which we don't have anymore because we know.
Yeah.
It's like the curtain's been lifted, it's pulled away, and we're just kind of, CGI, VFX, green screen. Yeah.
I also think bombarded by it. All the Marvel movies, all the Disney movies that come out. It's just you're hit over the head with it, so it's being touched by anything. And
it's oversaturation.
Oversaturation. That's what I was going for. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This I dare not speak with to Adam or Cameron because they'll literally jump on me like, you blasphemer! Ah. I have to kind of watch because one day I'm convinced Cameron's going to jump out the screen at me when I sort of say superhero movies are shit. I'm just waiting for a hand to come out the screen, start killing me, go His eyes will all change. He's like, yay, yay. And I'm like, sorry. Anyway, right, let's dive into the movie. So we'll maybe start talking about the characters. There's not too many characters in this. How some movies just got loads and loads for cannon fodder. This is actually quite a tight cast, which I think helps. So there is that sense of drama that if somebody did get killed of the main sort of group, there would be a loss. Now, there's plenty of cannon fodder in terms of the populace, but you don't really know them. But let's start off with Meg and Debbie, because we kind of start off the movie with them guys anyway. Well, we didn't. We started off with the old guy and Pooh Bear, the Basset Hound. That was kind of like, what are you kidnapping the dog for?
Yeah, they went early for the night. Usually, you don't see the animal die, or if you do, it's later in the movie. That they went right away the jugular, and they took the dog out. Yeah.
Yeah, at least they didn't. It was all done off screen. Just hinted at.
Yeah,
that was a big classic pooch.
There is that scene though where they the old man, the farmer guy who also gets killed. When you see his cotton candy, like a tiny one behind it, so that's what happened to the dog.
Yeah.
So if you thought, maybe the dog escaped somehow. Nope. You see the little cotton candy thing.
Yeah, it's like not messing about. This has a perfect blend of light and dark. Like it's real comedy moments, and then it's like super dark, and it just jumps from one to the other. You're like, whoa! It's the same way a lot of movies use sex, or a lot of like slasher movies use the sex Nora. So the point of the sexual scenes or the titillation, they go ah, and then the horror jumps in to go oh, it's to get the emotion and keep you on that kind of roller coaster. I think First Time this did this really well in terms of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as far as like the characters go, I thought Mike and Debbie was kind of interesting because like a lot of movies in like the 80s have the woman, especially like the blonde, being kind of like she's not the smartest tool in the but this they kind of flipped it. She was the one that was kind of like, we should get out of here. He was the one that's like, no, let's just keep going. Let's see what's inside this tent. It was interesting. They kind of flipped the dynamic.
But there were no strong female characters until Jennifer Lawrence did it. Did you not understand that?
That's right. They say, right? That's what they say.
Do you know what? That's the thing. All my life I've watched movies and I've seen strong female characters. I'm not batted an eyelid. And most of us haven't. And then these morons come along and start coming up with this stuff. You're like, here, hang on a minute. But she is a very good protagonist. She is a leader. She doesn't lose her femininity either, so she doesn't need an undershave and biceps to be a strong woman.
Right. Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting dynamic. They're all up in Lover's Lane or whatever, the top of the world they called it. And those two are in a blow-up dinghy in the back of their car with glasses of champagne. And I just thought, that's right. There's something... when I used to do mountaineering, I used to bring, there's me and this other guy on the course, and we used to bring up a tablecloth and wine and cheese and plastic glasses just to prove we could do it. Because you're hiking all day and you get up to the top of the bloody hill at your campsite and we had to just lay us out. It was only like a square. We had a little fold-up table and you set it down, and it was just that whole thing of, we're doing this. I'm just buggered. But it just reminded me of that, and I'm like, you go. Fair play to you. You're making the most of it. No kegs of beer for you two in plastic cups.
I love how every 80s movie, though, had that scene where everyone seemed to go to the same place to make out. Like, I don't remember that in real life. I was around in the 80s.
Well, in the UK, it's called dogging over here, where people go to car parks to watch each other do the business. Because it is voyeurism. Okay. Like, why are you gonna, if you're gonna get off your other half, why are you gonna go up with a load of other people?
Yeah, that seems weird to me. I guess whatever.
Look at me, I'm putting it in. Yay! High five.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, and they weren't even. Do you know why normally they would try the kids out to be like horrible and bad? These weren't bad kids. They were just doing their thing. They weren't causing trouble. It was actually set out as a peaceful town. Yeah.
But with the 80s morality, any of those, you knew those were gonna get killed. That just any minor thing you could do wrong in an 80s movie,
Oh yeah, that was it. That was your death sentence.
You knew the kids who did, who were doing who were drinking, who did drugs. I mean, even like the most minor thing, like they're done.
I think we embraced that though. That just became the running joke. So if there was the attempt at a moral message, it kind of had the opposite effect because it just became ha silly bastard, and then you got chopped up, and then we just carried on. I tell you what, I'd rather have that than today, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Because at least they're still having fun with it. Today, nobody's having fun, and that's the tragedy.
Right. For sure.
It's okay to have fun. It's okay, honest.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. You can do it. Look, your mouth can go this way, not just keep trying to preach the message. You know how it is. What did you think of Dave Hanson's character, the young officer?
Yeah, I thought it was good to see, like, you know, in the 80s or prior to, I'd say, the last years, it was good to see like a someone in law enforcement just be like a good guy, just like a good cop. I mean, there's very few examples of that. There's Hopper in Stranger Things, who's a good guy and he's doing his best.
Mm-hmm.
But too often today, I feel like the cop is always the bad guy. There's always something wrong. He's crooked, or he's on the take, or you know, there's something wrong with them. Just to have a good example of just like a cop trying to do the right thing, and even though he was, you know, a jealous ex-boyfriend, like he never, you know, took that too far either. He just seemed like
Yeah.
a good guy, you know.
Was that a good part of the storyline to bring in? Could he have not have just been a cherished friend? I didn't get the jealous ex part of the storyline. I don't know what
Yeah,
it added to the story. That's kind of my only
yeah,
complaint.
that's a good point. It really didn't go anywhere. I thought they were gonna explore that somewhere, or even at the end, I thought she was gonna go back to him, and thought maybe that was it. The fact saves her life, you know, she'll go back to him, but they didn't. They didn't do that either. So the end of the
No, I
movie, I'm
was
really
like,
sure, like, yeah, who she's gonna end up with. Yeah, they didn't explore it.
no, they just kind of left it. I don't get where, like even when he cuffed him and stuff, and then he lets him go 2 minutes later, it was kind of like, what was that for? It
Yeah,
didn't. I can understand him not being trusting or not believing. I didn't get the dynamic, and I think if I
yeah,
had removed that part of the story, the actual dynamic of it being a dear friend and being obviously he trusted Debbie, but he didn't trust the story, and then coming to realization, but it just didn't get the whole heavy-handedness that they brought in at the start with him. It didn't fit
right,
with his character either.
right. I agree. Yeah, it was weird. It maybe there was a version of the script that they just edited or didn't go with, but yeah, kind of abridged, or yeah, not follow through.
Yeah, possibly. It's the only real complaint I have about the storyline because it's not super deep, not super complex. It just seemed like something thrown in there that didn't really add to anything, and they could have easily not had it. And the feel good factor that was seen amongst the cast anyway, the characters could have just fallen through. There was plenty to play with the clowns, so
Yeah,
that's really the only complaint, in terms of the characters, not with the movie. It's just a bit strange, but thankfully it didn't overshadow the whole story.
yeah, right. I agree.
And what about our good friend Curtis Mooney?
He was great. He was so over the top that it was hilarious. I love when he's getting the phone calls and everyone's like, you know, screaming for help, and he's convinced that the entire town is full of fast one on him. So
Just a practical joke.
he's just sitting there reading his magazine while hanging off the hook. It's just
It's like, haha, I'll show you these. Like, he's in a town where nothing happens, let's be honest. And it's almost like he has to go inventing crime to give himself something to do.
right.
If you were a police officer and you were like in a major city and you got that beat, you'd be just like, I get to sleep for the next 10 years. I'll do that. I'd just go around being the reassuring presence. That'll be me anyway. Don't have to worry about people getting their heads chopped off and stuff, madness. I'll take that. But
Yeah, seems
it's
like
almost
a
like
big deal.
it's almost like he was looking for something.
Right. You're right. That's a good
I
point.
love
Yeah.
the kid that was crossing the street with the paper bags and the nondescript beer. Like, it wasn't even a brand of just beer. He's just drinking it between the two. And he sees him, he's like,
He had about 4 bags full too. Good for him.
yeah, he's like, it wasn't messing about. And he's still able to balance a can and drink from it. And then suddenly hide the can between the two bags and just carry on as if everything was good. I'm like,
Yeah.
you son are a legend. You go. And
That guy was
and Mooney, being the sharp tack that he is, just he's looking for stuff, and then that just is right in front of his face, and he doesn't see it. I just think that kind of described the character completely.
Yeah, I don't know why he picks on those other two kids and he lets that kid walk free.
Oh, it was just he, like I said, he was just an over the top. I think he was designed that way, and he took his role seriously, but it's not a serious role.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody else could really play it that. The only person I could think today would be J.K. Simmons.
That's a good one. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, the only person I think today could pull off the Mooney character would be like J.K. Simmons. I don't think anyone else could have done it.
Yeah, I see that.
And of course, we'll have to talk about the Terenzi brothers. What was the point of those things?
So they were so out of left field that I had to like look it up, and apparently the director and the director's brother, they like were the co-writers on the movie, and these were actual friends of this was based on actuals that did this, that rented an ice cream truck to try to pick up girls. So these two guys, because it seems so weird. I was like, I have to know the story behind this. So apparently these two characters were based on good friends of the director and his writer brother. And that they actually did that in real life. They actually rented an ice cream truck to pick up women because everyone likes ice cream.
That is special. That's actually quite brilliant. That is thinking outside the box. I wonder if they're ever successful. That's a bit we'll have to find out.
It seems like you'd I don't know. It seems like you'd be a lot of younger kids, right? It seems like inappropriate women.
Yeah, you're picking up the wrong girls. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, or unless they're going after the yummy mummies. Was that their plan?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
All the Mrs. Robinsons in the neighborhood. Is that what they were scoping out?
You know what? I didn't think about it. Maybe they're ahead of us. Yeah.
Ahead of the curve. You know what I mean?
Ahead of the curve.
They were just so random in this movie.
Right?
I don't get, apart from giving the guys a lift in the truck, which he crashed the police car in the back of anyway, they didn't really have much of a purpose. I don't think they really got their big moment. Those type of characters you expect, the underdog, they are the underdog characters in this movie.
Yeah, I think just like comedic relief, kind of like the C-3PO and R2-D2 of the original Star Wars movie, just kind of put in to kind of like take away from the, I guess, the seriousness of the the clowns murdering everyone.
Oh, that's the seriousness of a clown movie. It's just
the seriousness of a space clowns, based on a true story.
Yeah. Oh my word. Yeah, they were kind of I had fun with them, but it just they didn't get their moment. I think with a character like this, they have to have their big moment. And they didn't get it, and that was a disappointing thing. Like even when they crashed the truck into the circus tent, that they didn't get to really save the day, and I think that was the only bit that was missing with them. Because with those type of characters, you're building them up. They're goofy, they're fun, but they're the ones that'll pull the lever, find the switch, or do something, shut off the self-destruct. That's the type of characters you are, and I just think they missed their moment.
That's true. It seemed like they had like a bigger purpose, but they really didn't follow through with that. But I do like that they survived at the end because it didn't seem like.
And they also got molested as well. The only ones at the counter to clowns that didn't get eaten. They met the only two female clowns in the ship.
Yeah, that was hysterical.
Just reminded me of the female one out of Gremlins 2. Just that kind of ridiculousness. I was just like, okay. All right, worst ways to go, I suppose. So, what do you think of Mike and Debbie's first encounter with the circus tent / ship? Was it a good setup? We see the shooting star. And then let's go exploring, because that's what you always do. You go into the woods on your own to explore the strange phenomenon. That always works out well in horror.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought, for a low budget movie, the inside the tent were, interesting. It doesn't exactly make sense. Aliens would have like 4 little doors that get smaller and smaller, and things like that. It was, it was all part of the fun and the silliness, So I guess we're good.
They did try to put a functionality. That was the thing. There was all this daftness, but they were almost putting it like an alien logic to it all, as if it had to be that way. And they couldn't do it any other way. And there was some, if you think about the set as well, there was some work went into that set. Like, that set still looks good today. When you see some of the stuff that millions get spent on in today's movies, it looks absolutely terrible. That looked really solid and good. Like, that could have been easily cardboard, but it looked solid.
Yeah.
Do you know why some sets they actually wobble when you touch them, and you know it's just cheap and nasty? But that's looked as if it was really crafted with love and proper. Like, you could almost think it was a spaceship, and the solidness of it. That's what I got. Just the solidity of it. What do you think?
Definitely. I thought when that room where they have the cotton candy ball, balls or whatever they call it.
Oh yeah, the living popcorn. I was like, what's going on here?
It was really cool, and I like the one where there's like it looks like the ground is like the unlimited pit, or whatever, that room where they're looking at it to go on forever. Like, I thought that was kind of interesting,
like Colin type thing.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah,
they actually put some effort. That was the thing. Like you say, we'll keep saying it again, for a low budget move, like 1.8 million's nothing. Even back in the 80s to make a movie with, especially something involving special effects, because special effects will suck up any budget that you might have. Never mind the actors taking part or location shoots or anything else. If you have a special effects laden movie, that's your budget gone.
Right.
That's where 60-70% of your movie, your funds are going to make it look good. And such a fantastic job. I was surprised myself when I watched it again.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it holds up. For an 80s low budget movie, it was still interesting. All the different rooms and sets and stuff like that. You could definitely, it definitely was thought provoking. Yeah. I thought it was good.
And then, and because we already had the kill with the old guy and Uber, these two get to survive because they have to go back and tell everybody, which normally there's a group of 4 or 5 go in and get wiped out. So that's in your typical slasher movie. So you encounter it and they escape. But like I said, the fact that you can play it with a popcorn gun, that they're being deadly serious, that was the most expensive piece of kit. And all I wanted to do was shoot popcorn so it stuck. And apparently they had like so many problems getting this thing to work, but they didn't give up. That's the bit of the movie that apparently stumped them, and that's the bit that they had to really delve into to make happen. And I just think that's fascinating, considering everything else that's going on in this movie. That's the bit that got stuck on, was something to shoot out popcorn at somebody.
Yeah, it definitely. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say it's fun, watching a movie as an adult, because you start overthinking, like, is the popcorn like their progeny, like their kids? Like, is that how they, eat? And those are the kids, and they grow up to be Killer Klowns?
I think it was because the popcorn evolved. Remember, it stuck to Debbie's back, and then they put some in the big dumpster. When they actually evolved in the shower room thing, they were actually small clowns. So do they start off as like Jack-in-the-Box clowns and then evolve into their state?
Yeah, but they don't have limbs. So is it something that they grow into the limbs? Or?
That's what I was thinking. Is that their state? Like, we didn't see them because of the things we didn't see. I was thinking Jack-in-the-Box, the Jack-in-the-Box clown.
Sure.
I had this thing of mini Jack-in-the-Box clowns that their heads just popped up. And then, do you know where you have like frogs? They start off as frog spawn, and then they become sort of halfway between the
Oh, like
amphibians.
tadpole?
Yeah, the tadpoles. But then they go in that weird state in between tadpole and frog. So it looks completely like each stage of their development looks completely different to what they end up as. If you think butterflies and moths, start off as caterpillars, they go into like a coon state. Could that maybe be how they developed? And here's the thing: I don't want it explained. I don't want the director to explain all this to me. This is what I'm having fun with, and that's what people forget about movies. I'm having fun, and you'll have a completely different idea to me about things. But that's the fun of these type of movies. The wonder that how does that work?
I do find my mind wandering as I watch the movie. Like I was thinking like maybe it's one of those snakes or fish where they have like indeterminate growth, like they could just grow and grow and grow. And that's why all the different clowns, none of them are like the same size and shape. Like they're all different, So maybe it's just like those species and that's why you have like the Godzilla one at the end. Maybe he's just than the other ones, and he just kept growing.
Well, it's the same as alligators and crocodiles, pythons. They actually do not stop growing. If they've got enough food and enough space, they will continue to grow forever.
Yeah.
And it's only their environmental factors that slow down or stop their growth. So we've got, the thing is, they've put this, there is this in nature. And I just wonder, did they think about this? Or, like you said, are we just overthinking it? Because it's just...
I think we're thinking it. But that's what I do know.
But this should be a daft movie. I think this is why there's a reason this movie has lasted 35 years and will still be here another 35 years down the line. For on the surface, it's a daft comedy. But they have learned so many concepts and ideas in this that every time you watch it, you get something new. Or you think about another aspect of it. And I don't know if it was done deliberately. These guys are geniuses. If it was just a happy accident, so be it. Let's just go with it.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
Oh yeah, we'll have to talk about, of course, every aspect of this is done on a circus act. So when they're chasing Mike and Debbie, what do you think when you first encountered the balloon dog? They just decided to make one as a title.
It was hilarious. At first I was like, is it like a different species? Like, do they have dogs, or is this like part of their like cool technology? So I think in my head it's part of the technology. I don't think it's like a pet or anything like that. I think it's just
the total like, okay, I needed to do this. No, well. There is that underlying aspect that this is alien technology, and they even talked about it. Like, is this where we got our ideas of clowns from because they came down here?
Yeah,
that was like that idea.
That was like a throwaway line, but I'm glad they did that because a character has like a line like that. That's the writer or the director telling you that this is a strong possibility. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the character even mention it. So I think that makes sense. I think obviously, again, this is overthinking what's a silly clown movie, but maybe aliens did, arrive at some point and maybe like notion of clowns and circus clowns comes from that. So, it's a fun train of thought to try to, which came first, or scare the crap out of us or is this just how they are? And we based our, our idea of clowns on them, Yeah,
just one of them mysteries of the universe.
Yeah.
But it's just fun the way they actually made it as if it's serious technology. And like I said, even it's like you're saying about it didn't make any sense why the doors went from large to small, but in their universe or in their species, it made absolute sense. And it's just one of them fun things to play with. That's
Yeah.
why, like I said, there's a reason this movie's lasted and it's still enjoyable today because there is a bit of deeper thought, but it's just left
Yeah.
for you to kind of figure out. There was a lot of kills in this, and considering the fact they're on a harvesting mission, they're out to harvest humans and mammals basically for food.
Mhm.
But the fact that they spent so long having fun with their kills before they go in the big sweep up. What were your thoughts on that? Was it built into the story that once again it's their alien, it's like a rite of passage with those young warriors going out to get their first blood, or was it just designed for giggles because they didn't really have to go and dispatch people the way they did because they had the technology just to go and we see it with their own mask cleaning out the entire village. They could have just did that first and been over and done with. So where do you think the idea of them going out individually to like get an individual kill came from?
Yeah, it's interesting thought. Did they are they doing this to scare people because they feel like that will help them if like other people are scared, it makes it easier to kill us, or are they just evil? And maybe humans don't have the we're not evil is not exclusive to humans. Maybe there are aliens that are just simply evil, and they just maybe that's why they want to do it this way to instead of just killing us to make it worse somehow.
Yeah,
but as far as like
there's sadism involved in it that they're actually like taking pleasure in it. But I was just wondering, because of the conversation we've had, and we've said that the clown technology makes sense in an alien, we can't make sense of it as humans, and it's an alien thought process. It's an alien technology. Could this have been young warriors going out, like tribal, like any sort of tribe of hunter gatherers?
right?
Were these possibly the new warriors, the young ones, going out to get their first kill? And this is me overthinking this again. To get their first kill, but because of their technology and their weapons, that's the way they have to do it. So it's the same as a snare or a trap. Like what was the first one? The Punch and Judy show. Is that the equivalent of them setting a trap for like a larger prey, a bear or something, and enticing them in, not to frighten the rest of the herd? Am I maybe thinking too much about this? I'm putting too much into the actual acts.
That's what makes it fun. I think that could be a good point. Maybe this is their almost like their where they, it's like their trial,
the rite of passage sort of thing.
Passage. I like that idea. But as far as the one that was my favorite kill, it's not really part of the kill, but when the clowns come into Debbie's house and she tries to go out the window, there's 4 clowns the mini trampoline. just the fact that they were waiting out there for at least 5 or 10 minutes, hope that she would go to that window. There's
a whole daftness to this, but there's a cold logic as well, and it's like these aren't stupid. That's one thing we'll definitely know. The clowns are not stupid.
Right.
They are sinister. They are funny as hell, but one thing they're not, they're a smart race.
Right.
And the fact that they could plan out their attack in such a manner, and why they decided to capture her in such a way instead of just popcorn her up like the rest, or the candy floss. Sorry, they did the candy floss gun. Why did they decide to capture her in a balloon? Why some they captured in balloons and others that they did the candy floss?
Yeah, they didn't explain.
Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, they didn't explain that. And it wasn't just her. There were other ones in that room.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch captured in balloons. And the rest were all in the candy floss hook things.
So at first I started thinking like, well, maybe they want to keep them alive for some purpose besides just food. But then again, when they shot her out of it, she said that she couldn't breathe and she was like,
yeah, she was from that verse, so she was suffocating.
Yeah, she was suffocating. That kind of blows my theory that they wanted to keep her alive. So now I really don't know. I don't know why that was different than the one.
Because obviously the candy floss was explained when we saw the one coming in with the huge straw. I think when I remember back, that was the bit that got me when I first watched it. The sort of horror aspect of it. You knew they weren't up to good, but that bit where the clown comes in with a huge straw and sticks it in, and you're like, because you already know there's people in them.
Yeah.
But I remember that definitely. That was a bit that actually was scary to me as a kid when I first watched this. Going, whoa!
Oh, that
I think the reality hit it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you could see the face when they take some of the cotton candy off and you see the face all.
Yeah, but that was earlier on in the movie. But that didn't hit me as hard as the bit when he's actually stuck a straw in. And I don't know why.
Yeah. But I think in my mind, it'd be one thing if you didn't see the person inside, but the fact that you see that there's a person with the red face, and then later that they're drawing the blood, the combination of the two stuck with me as a kid and was pretty scary for a campy.
Yeah, it was funny because it's all daft and comedic, and you're not really getting the full thing. But then that's about it was like, oh right, okay, they're not messing about. I have two possible favorite kills, but I can't decide between them. And we'll have to be the biker guy. I just love that scene with the wee one in the trike. Coming up, what you gonna do? Knock my block off? Big. And Curtis Mooney's killed. Because even after he's killed, the fact that they did the puppet show, the mannequin sort of scene with him.
Yeah.
They're the two major scenes that stick in my mind in this whole movie. Like, even before rewatching again, I always remember those two scenes.
Right. Yeah, those are great. I
don't know which is a bit. I don't know. I can't pick between the two of them as my favorite kill.
Yeah. Those are good choices. Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, I think the Mooney scene has its own because afterwards, that's the first we have direct communication between the clown and the human, between him and Dave. Because the clowns speak their own language and they don't even attempt to communicate with humans. They're just they make hand gestures and stuff, but generally they're not there to communicate. They're there to kill and gather. But that was the only time in the whole movie where the large clown actually communicates directly through Mooney's character saying, "Well, we're just gonna kill you," and they're just stating clearly exactly what they're doing. I don't know. I can't pick between the two because you knew kind of what was going on with the biker gang. You knew it was not going to end well. But the way the wee clown's crying and stuff and messing about and then jumps up and comes back down with the boxing gloves, just like, you know what's going on. It's not going to... the gang isn't going to win.
That one was funny. I tell you the Mooney one because he set it up earlier in the movie. He said, "You're not going to make a dummy out of me." He uses that line, the Mooney, and then to see it actually like, him used as an actual dummy. That was good foreshadowing. I thought that was.
There's a lot of cleverness in this. I think that's what makes good comedy, though. Comedy has to be clever, even if it seems daft. Even general mainstream comedy, I always think back to the Police Academy series.
Yeah, those were great.
There's a lot of clever comedy in there, and it was always blink and you miss it scenes, like stuff happening in the background that if you weren't paying attention, you missed them. What do you call him? O'Mahony, wasn't he he's getting dressed up by the sergeant. What do you call him? The commissioner.
I'm blanking on his name, but I know who you're talking about.
You know who I mean anyway. And he's briefing him up about something, and then you see people like dancing in the background. They're doing exercise, and then they're doing ring and rosies, and they're doing daft stuff out the window. But if you weren't looking out the window, you wouldn't see it. And there's loads of little bits that takes as much effort as the main scenes. Potter to logo 6 movies, and the subtle underplays. Comedy has to be clever. for it to last and for you to get it.
Sure.
And that's where I think comedy today, there's a lot of it just doesn't land because they're not thinking. That it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Did you still genuinely laugh when you watch this again?
I did. I mean, as a kid, I didn't find the humor in it. So as an adult, it was all new to me. Yeah, I was laughing. Like I said, when they have the little mini trampoline out, everything with Officer Mooney, whether he was over the top himself and then just the alien using him as a dummy, the clown using dummy, it all landed for me. It was all funny.
It's just goes to show, and genuine laughs too. Not you're just going, but you're actually, oh right, I'm actually finding this funny. It's refreshing, isn't it, to watch something that genuinely brings that out.
Yes,
that kind of shows how good a movie this is, why it still holds true, because the thought that goes into that, and I don't think you'll ever replicate it. That's why it's such a special movie.
Yeah,
you try and remake this, and you'll lose all that comedy. I think you'll lose all that goodwill. I just don't see it ever being what it was. I think if they had done a sequel, they'd have maybe tried to do some of the same beats, but it wouldn't have had the same impact of the first one.
Yeah, what I liked about it is that all the people in the movie played it straight. You know, with the exception of maybe the Terenzi brothers. Everyone else straight. They didn't try to be funny. Sometimes I think when they just try to be funny, it doesn't land. Like they tried to play it like it was a Syrian, and that's why I think the comedy works, because they take it seriously. You know, I thought the comedy worked in this.
Yeah, I think when you see some of the ones that try to be funny, or they're thinking they're laughing at it, and they're not, they're actually taken away from their own character. And like I said, I barely keep up, but I've seen clips from that Ghostbusters 2016 movie, and I'm like, they're trying to be funny, but they're not, because you can tell they're trying, so it just doesn't land with you.
Exactly.
They're trying to be funny in that. I tried to watch that Wonder Woman movie, the second one. I only got about 10 minutes in it. I'll just turn it off. They tried to be funny in it, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because they were trying, and you could tell they were trying. And when you see that like strained attempt at comedy, you're just like, nah, I'm out. Comedians as well. You see when some comedians go out and they try to be funny, and it doesn't work. It just sounds really off. Can't give examples. I'm not big. I've only ever followed a few comedians in the time, but you see some of the action, when you see a clip or something, you see somebody trying to be funny. They're not trying to tell a story or anything. They're actually attempting to, I want to make you laugh, and it actually has the opposite effect.
Right.
Thankfully, this movie could have fallen foul of that, but it didn't.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
What did you think? See, when we got to the scene, because like I said, they all went out, and that's what put it in my mind. Why did they have to go out as individuals? Because then we see the main scene where they're actually going through the town in full force, and they've brought all their equipment out, and they're basically sweeping everybody up. How was that in contrast to the clowns going out initially?
Oh, the fact that they went individually to collect him.
Yeah, they were sneaky. They're almost being sneaky at the start, but then they're just coming out in full force, and you see this huge gathering machine, and they're patrolling essentially down the middle of the main street, and they're just sweeping everybody up as they go along. They're not even hiding. Could they have done that from the start?
Yeah, they definitely could. You know, if it's just like a part of the writing to try to build up, then that's one thing. But I think in terms of like an actual reason why they did it, it could be, like you said, some sort of rite of passage thing where it's almost like, kills did you get? How many kills did you get? And they try to like compare somehow, and there's some sort of value system as to how many humans they could collect. Maybe with some element to that, and then they decided, once then they're just going to all, take out the rest of the town. It could be something along those lines.
Sorry. Yeah, because I think we'll both agree these writers are not stupid, right?
Yeah.
This is written by clever people, so we can almost assume that there's a reason behind everything they've done. It's not just out for cheap gags. You get that feel from this movie that there's a purpose. You mightn't see what it is, but there's definitely a purpose behind everything they've done. And I just think that end, but sort of towards the end of the movie, when you see him actually just coming out in full force, not even hiding, just kind of shows that they had the capability to do it. So there's other reasons why they're doing. There's a whole alien logic. The bit I can't get my head around is how they moved the circus ship from the woods to the carnival, and nobody noticed.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's tough.
Like
to argue.
When it left the woods, there was a huge crater in the ground, and that's where I don't understand the Dave Hansen jealous boyfriend thing, because even though he said it's not here anymore, but there's a huge cone-shaped, like 2 mile deep hole in the bloody ground that there's no other explanation why it'd be there. You'd be like, something definitely happened here. It wasn't like it was somebody dug a small hole, like a flipping huge artificially made crater. You just be like, oh, right, that's not good.
Right.
It's not weird scene between those two. Just didn't. That's why I'm saying that's only about the journey. But how did that thing then go? You can understand landing in the woods, but I can't understand it getting up, flying over the town, and landing in the middle of the carnival on a pier. By the way, because this was all set in the pier, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, and they established that there was a security guard there, at least. So you'd think he would have noticed that a giant tent landed on top of. Yeah,
that's like I said, that's only that kind of made me go, "What are you doing?" Everything else has a weird alien logic, but how they managed to do that, but everyone's still being oblivious, just it doesn't make sense. Plus, there would have been damage. There wasn't like a circus tent shaped hole that they just filled, because if it hadn't landed in another circus tent, there would have been damage all around it. And people would be like, whoa. But yeah, apart from that, or maybe they'd already started gathering the village and moved it anyway. No, they hadn't, because they discovered it at the start, so they did this early on. Yeah, it's the only bit I can't get my head around.
That was tough. Yeah, that one's tough to rationalize.
Yeah. Was it fitting the way the clowns were able to get killed when they discovered, because it happened in Mooney's, obviously in the police station, where Dave works out how to kill the clown. Like, how do you get to that thought process of you've shot it, it's about to break your back? You're like, I know, I'll pop its nose and see what happens.
Yeah. It didn't really make sense why he would know that, but I have a theory about that I just started thinking about when I was watching this. Like, what if the clown that's not what they look like? What if it's like a spacesuit, and like by hitting the nose, that like punctures the spacesuit,
the life support system?
Like a life support system, and that's why they instantly die like that. Because if it's just a creature, even killing a very important, orifice, it's still going to die slowly. It's not going to instantly spin and die. So what if it's like the clown suit is actually like a space suit because they're not from this planet and they can't,
maybe
live here
because of the popcorn. You could be onto something here, because the popcorn, they don't come out fully realized as a clown. They have the clown in and they don't. So one of them could fit inside a suit.
Right? And that's the popcorn doesn't.
So we just saw the neck, but it can have tentacles. So the tentacles could be controlling the suit. And obviously, as each one grows, it gets a bigger suit to go with it.
You're with me on this, right?
I am actually. I'm on board. Who would have thought that a cheesy 80s horror comedy about space clowns would become a real philosophical endeavor? I wasn't expecting the conversation to go like this whatsoever, but let's jump in and do it. For sake.
This is why I hate myself when I watch these movies, because I tend to like over things now. I can't just enjoy it for the silliness of it. Like I'll watch like a There's a movie, Reign of Fire, about dragons. I don't know if
Oh, the
you've ever
dragons.
seen
That
it.
was with Christian Bale, wasn't it?
Yeah, great movie. But I'll buy into the premise, but then I get like annoyed by like these little minutia. But I'm totally with the fact that there's dragons flying around. You know, just find myself, I overthink all these little all these little things. But that's my theory, that maybe it's like a spacesuit, and that's
Some
why
review movies. Seriously, I find this a good outlet just to get on and talk about and review movies and talk about crazy theories. That's rather than sitting like having it all turn up, just put it in camera and see who agrees with you. You might surprise yourself. And then next thing you know, you're spending 16 hours a week plus flipping making video content and obsessing over it.
But then my career is ended when all the directors that I've given these theories, they just come on and say nope. Yeah, that would end it pretty quickly. Nope.
Oh, this is how you think? Okay. Whoa. So we're saying that the clowns are all different sizes, but were you expecting, even the first time, Jojo the Clownzilla, like the huge, massive one, were you expecting that to be a thing?
No, I was definitely, shocked when this giant thing came down. But that does kind of go with our other theory that we talked about, that maybe it's like a snake, or like you mentioned, a alligator, where they're just indeterminate, growth, or they could just keep growing and growing. So maybe this thing is older than, kind of took over. But it is amazing how so respectful of them that they just ran away when Jojo comes down. So they were pretty scared of this thing. So maybe he, canonizes his own clowns. Like, they seem to be pretty, pretty scared. They all ran away, when he came down.
Supposedly, some of that size needs fed, so
yeah,
it would kind of make sense if there's little sudden pickings, and maybe that's why they're needing and like to clear out entire villages, just because that's the size they get. The needs a constant source of food supply. But it was just like, look, can this movie get any more mad? Like when he ended up, they captured Debbie, the chase after her. That was brilliant. The whole car chase scene. You've got this little tiny car and the balloon bouncing up and down the back was supposedly Debbie. And they had to switch to say, because that was a real balloon just going doing, doing, doing. And then they switch to say to her. And then you're getting chased by an ice cream truck. Into the circus tent. And then just going through all the motions. And this thing's like a TARDIS. No, it's bigger on the inside. It just gets infinitely larger. Like,
yeah,
there's no scale to it whatsoever. I don't know. It's just so well. When you think of the budget, once again, when you think of budget, the amount of effort to put into the scenery, where they didn't have to, they could have maintained this to the town and just taken over. Just the corridor going into the spaceship would have been enough. And that first scene, but then they did this whole end scene where they're going through the entire ship almost.
Yeah,
that was a lot of work, but I think it paid off. I think it just added that extra dimension to this movie.
Yeah, definitely. With running through like the different doors and down the elevators and stuff like that, it was definitely something as a kid, just like the fear of like, there's no way out of this. It's like a never ending trap. And yeah, they did a great job, like you said, with this on a low budget, to try to give it that feel that it's much larger than it is, obviously.
Yeah. What was the purpose of that creature at the end of the sliding pole? Because they obviously weren't expecting humans to be running around their ship.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's another things, like the tiny doors, where it's for me, it was like hard to try to rationalize. Is it a pet? Is that like a security system? Like you said, they weren't expecting humans, so it's kind of,
yeah. Was it a test? That if you don't slide down properly. I'm actually equating these, and this might seem a bit silly, but I'm equating these to the predator species.
Right.
I'm thinking about it, and I didn't expect to make that connection. but I kind of am. That, do you know why the predators have their rites of passage and their trials even before they go out on the hunt? And they're a brutal race, even to each other, and it's only the strongest survive. I'm just wondering if this whole layout is actually their training ship. So they actually train on it, as well as just going from place to place. That this is like a high point. So while they're on the ship, they're actually going through the Hall of Mirrors and stuff, and that's actually their gym, their training ground. So if they miss a step, they get wiped out themselves because they only want the best.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Is
I
this
like
me
that
going
idea.
way over the edge here, or
No,
what?
I like it because I think of stuff like that too. But I didn't think of that. Oh, that's a good theory. I like that one.
Because the only reason for that creature to be there would be if somebody's sliding down the pole and they miss their step, then they get eaten. So it's
Right.
almost like a training exercise. That like you better learn to be wary, and maybe it moves around and it's different poles. There's different traps, but it wouldn't make
Ooh.
sense when they're not expecting humans to be around the ship. This is probably the first time humans have actually done what they've done, because they seem to be they've went pretty much unopposed. So is this all in-house stuff and
Yeah.
part of their species, their interactions, and their culture, their hierarchy? Like, it's hard to
Right.
imagine. I'm thinking of culture and hierarchy and stuff, the Killer Klowns, but the movie does make it more. It's just so much fun to play with.
Yeah, for sure. I like that part of like a training regiment. I think that's a good
Yeah.
theory. Yeah.
Because you can see them go through the house and they have done, the tunnel where it's all bouncing, and the humans are like, they're wobbling about, but these guys just go straight through as if they've done it 100 times, as if going through an assault course, like a military assault course. The ones that have been trained up are just bouncing over it and don't even think twice.
Yeah. It's a good theory. I like it.
And then back to the Terenzi brothers, because they kind of make this grand entrance, smashing through the door to save Mike, Debbie, and Dave from Clownzilla. But this is where I'm saying they missed their chance. This should have been their sort of glory moment, and it kind of fell a bit flat.
Yeah. They pretty much stayed on the truck instead of doing something more. Yeah, that's true.
To me, should they have been the ones that killed Clownzilla?
Yeah, I think it'd been better if they like somehow like drove up a ramp and into the nose of that.
Yeah.
That would have been like perfect for the 80s, but also made them the kind of like Han Solo moment, with the Millennium Falcon, like they somehow, come in and save the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just a wasted opportunity because they come in, yes, they made the hole so the others could escape, but then Clownzilla just grabs the thing and throws it. And of course, another thing we didn't talk about, which is such an 80s thing, every time a car crashes, it explodes. Every car
Well,
that's crashing this.
That's just bad manufacturing. That's just, that's just faulty. That's a recall somewhere. Someone.
You think the number of movies we've watched, especially in the 80s, why did any of us ever buy a car? Because these things are ticking time bombs, according to the movies.
That's right.
One bump and that's it. I'm surprised the police car didn't blow up when it hit the back of the ice cream truck. Like that should have happened as well.
Someone missed a recall somewhere. These things are dangerous.
Yeah. Like one just went over the small bridge. Like that should have just crumpled. But no, it had to blow up as well. And you're like, okay. And then the ice cream truck, when Clownzilla just throws it, it's like boom. And you're like, really? Wow.
But how the Terenzi survived it.
Yeah, because they jumped in the freezer. Because oh
that's
god,
right.
I'm
That's
thinking
Indiana Jones, right? Where he
Demon and Crystal Skull, how to survive a nuclear attack. Yeah, okay.
Maybe that's where they got the idea from. This movie.
Wouldn't surprise me. Oh my god, it was such a terrible movie. I don't think I've ever watched that more than once. In fact, I haven't. I watched it once and that was it. I was done.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And now they're dragging him out again. And there's fucking, what's Harrison Ford's age? He's about 80 now, isn't he?
He just turned 80. Yeah. Yeah.
What are they doing?
Yeah. Well, I
That's
can't
also
say
sad.
I can't. He's in better shape than I am at 80. So
This is true. Fair play to him. Like, God, who is it? No, it was just I'm going to see Iron Maiden later this year. I've got tickets, and the drummer's 70 years of age. All the rest of the guys are like mid 60s, and they've got more bloody energy than I could dream of right now. And I'm only mid 40s, and I'm just like, what the hell? And these guys are bouncing about and jumping, and he's fucking, with like smile on his face. I'm like, so fair play, but I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Just chill out. For sake, you're 80, you've earned it. Take a rest. Don't need to be in any shitty movies these days. Fucking go and do cameo, or not even cameos, but go and do guest appearances and things and sign stuff if you want to make a few quid on the side. Who is it? Dolph Lundgren. He was at Salt Lake Comic Con. He was charging $100 a photo, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was because all the people are lined up, and they've all different prices, and as with those conventions that are in Snap out, so they could probably make more in a convention than waste their time on like a movie these days. Let's be honest. They do that twice a year. They're sorted.
Right.
You think of the queues of people that will happily fork out money over, even taking away the royalties to the location. Flip's sake, 50, even if it's like 50%, you $50 will pay about a couple hundred people, and they can push a couple hundred people through in an hour.
Sure.
Flipping, that's I'd be doing that sort of stuff, but hey, fair play to him. But anyway, going on a little tangent, which we'll love to do on the show because that's half the fun. What did you think of the ending? Just, of course, Dave has to have the hero moment, which you don't see today either.
Yeah.
It's a bit.
What'd you think of the ending first?
It was a wee bit lackluster.
Yeah.
I think Dave being the one killing Clownzilla the way he did was a wee bit of, when you think of everything else that's went on in this movie, it was almost like a rushing to finish it off.
Yeah, I agree. The ending kind of fell a little flat for me. Would have been better if Dave had at least sacrificed himself. Although I think I mentioned
sacrifice.
Yeah, at least that's something interesting. The fact that they all survived kind of, takes away from the stakes a little bit. But also, I think we mentioned like the Terenzi brothers. I think that would have been cool if they were the ones
that would have been an amazing ending.
Yeah,
because they'd already spent the money on effects, so the amount of effects is spent on throwing the car to the side and it blowing up, driving the car into the Clownzilla's nose, and we got you, we got you guys through the. So it didn't have the leading out. They had the what do you call it, megaphone.
Right.
So they could have just been like, get out of here, we've got this. Boom, I think that would have been the perfect ending, and when everyone else jumped off the ship.
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting. So I looked it up, and the original ending was Dave Hansen was supposed to die in it.
Mm-hmm.
Executives, when they saw like I guess an initial cut of the movie, that they wanted a happier ending, so they made the director have Dave Hansen, but the way he did it, where he just like shows up in the car when there wasn't enough time, looking at the explosion and everything like that, it was so over the top campy. Like, oh, he just shows up in the car, everything's okay. I thought that was kind of weak. But the Terenzi brothers were always supposed to survive, so it's not like the director wanted to have like the serious ending, because obviously if the Terenzi brothers survived in the ice cream truck, that's not exactly a serious ending either. So,
but they could have done that as well. Actually, they could have done that, because as they're flying through the air, they could have jumped in the freezer, still would have had us in, and then the ice cream truck land.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
that would have been better.
they've already done the effects, so spent the money on the effects. So they did it with a car dropping. So they may as well have
Yeah.
done it with the ice cream truck. Well, they did anyway. They dropped. They did it. So they may as well. There was no extra money, I think, that would have been wasted.
Right.
And with like such a far away, I don't think any extra money really would have been spent. But this is a
Right.
classic example as well of studio interference.
Yeah.
So the studio didn't interfere, and then right at the end, they stick their beaks in, and we kind of get this bit falling flat.
Yeah.
Tell me one movie. Tell me one movie where when the studio gets involved and starts messing with the plot that has turned out better.
I will say Star Wars 1, they did change a lot from I think Gareth Edwards, I think, was the original, and he still gets credited, but they supposedly did a ton of on that. They changed a lot, and that's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. But very few and far between. You're right. Almost always when they change the director's vision, it almost always works,
The opposite way.
Against them. Because executives are not creators. There's a reason the director got to where he is. They have a vision. They've gone up the ladder and they've earned it. An executive got there a different way, and there's no, it's two different skill sets.
Different focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you.
You just wonder why that's never been realized, and there's never been a line drawn. Like once you give somebody a job, like I hate micromanaging. That's a pet hate of mine anyway. In the world, if you've applied, if somebody's applied for a job and they've demonstrated the skill set, and you have decided that person gets the job based on skill set, then why not trust them to do the job? I don't understand. It's only when you're not performing, but then that's down to having bad KPIs and stuff, and with movies, test screenings. So there's many checks and balances before the movie hits the screen, actually goes out into the cinemas, to see whether it's going down the right path. But it seems to be that the jump in well before it. We'll see it with I'm not too sure if you're familiar with the Hellraiser franchise. You might know about it, but you probably don't watch them.
Yeah, I've seen the first one a while ago, but yeah.
Right. Well, that's a whole series of movies that absolutely dogged with studio interference. Hence why there's a whole slew of absolutely terrible movies, because studio gets involved, they poke their nose in, they chop and change, and mess with things, and just it doesn't ever go well. We've seen it with so many other. Once the studio starts just sticking their beaks in, it's like, what are you doing? You've just now ruined the whole thing, because you can actually now see the points where the studios stuck their nose in. It's so jarring now in a lot of movies.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I don't know. Maybe one day somebody will twig on. Maybe not do that. That's not a good idea. But I doubt it.
No, I think as the budgets become bigger and bigger, the studios, their grip is going to get tight. I think it's going to get worse. I don't think it's going to get better.
But here's the thing. Dude, and that's the thing why I still enjoy horror, because it's still relatively low budget movies. The mainstream large budget stuff to put out is kind of bland, but generally horror is low budget. That's always been the thing. So you have to work harder to make the movie. And part of me, as much as I'd love to see effects realize their full potential, I don't want that aspect of horror movies to change. Right. I want that bit of hard work put in, and that they're being made because of the feeling, because a director getting into a horror movie knows they're not going to make billions. They're not going to hit the $1 billion mark or whatever with an unreleased. There's kind of an acceptance of that, so you have to be doing it with the best intentions.
Right.
Like I said, this thing made 40 million, and it's still making money even today. Like, I rented it before because I can't get a Blu-ray at the moment. The only ones I can get are in Spanish. That's the only thing available right now. There's like a Spanish version. I'm like, nah, I'll hang on. but this is the longevity. It's still making money today. people are still paying to see it. And hopefully, there's a link in the description, folks, if you want to check it out. Keep it going, keep this thing alive. That's really is a precious movie. So just the final sort of scene, everyone's all together, happy and hugging. What do you think of the pies falling from the sky on top of them?
I thought it was funny. It was kind of in the tone of the movie, that they didn't take itself too serious. It doesn't make sense, but is that like? Yeah.
But we saw what the pies did. Remember the security guard? You mentioned the security guard at the fun fair, the carnival, and they threw the pies at him and he melted them.
Yeah, that would have been a twist ending if like melted after that. Like radioactive.
That was the whole point of the pies. The pies were a weapon. Do you remember they all threw the pies at the security guard and he just melted into nothing? Then the small one puts a cherry on top, and then they discover him later all his bones are sticking out because it just melted the skin.
Right.
I don't get. I know it's to make you laugh, but at the same time, that's what you're kind of expecting, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, the pies seem to have no effect on that. That would have been a twist ending if they all just melted down into bones after that. They're all celebrating and happy.
That would have been a proper horror twist.
Yeah.
But all in all,
yeah.
Yeah. So all in all, what are your overall thoughts of the movie? I know we've nitpicked it a bit, but what are your overall thoughts?
I think it's interesting to rewatch a movie that you've seen as a kid, and it's funny like what you remember, what you don't remember, and how different it is. It's almost like revisiting an elementary school, and then the room looks so small. It was definitely fun to do. I'm glad you do it. As far as the movie itself, I think it holds up as a comedy. I think the horror element, there's definitely parts of it that are work well, but it doesn't take itself too serious, which I enjoyed. So I definitely think if people out there have, I think it's just like a fun ride, and like you said, it's so different from of movies currently that I think people will enjoy it. If you did see it a long time ago, it's also fun to revisit it because you could be like us and you could start overthinking, is it an alien suit?
That's almost as much fun as watching a movie. That's a good movie though. If it makes you think and you get invested, if you're just sleepwalking along going, oh, is this over yet? And you're not coming up with that theories, you're not invested. So that's a good sign. Would you recommend this to non-horror fans or people that maybe don't watch horror movies? Would this be a good one for an outsider to come in and watch? Is it good in terms of a standalone movie?
Absolutely, because that's really where that's me. So as a non-horror fan, if I enjoyed it, there's probably other people out there that would. I would say Evil Dead is probably the best example, especially the second Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is probably the best example of that genre. But
I think you've seen Army of Darkness.
Yes, that was great too.
Right? Have you seen Ash versus Evil Dead, the series?
I haven't yet, and I should because I enjoyed.
Oh man! You gotta check. That is just right. See everything in the Evil Dead series, right? It's dialed up to 11.
Okay.
In the three movies, right? Everything's dialed up to 11 in the series.
Okay, I do have to check that out.
And you've got Bruce Campbell and Lucy Lawless back together again, acting.
Okay.
So I don't know if you remember the old Xena days.
Yes.
Where he played, what do you call him, a Locatus, or the sort of shifty one, but him and Lucy Lawless have acted, they have a long history of acting together, so they're back together for this series. Brilliant. And the new characters they bring in, Pablo and Kelly, are brilliant. They're just, it's worth it. It's like I said, it's been a long time since I've had like proper belly laughs watching something.
Yeah.
And the series does. It just gives you a proper belly laughs. In fact, that's something maybe in the new year, if you dive into it at some point, we could maybe come back and have a chat about, if you want to have a crack at it.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah,
Good, good.
for
Happy
sure.
New Year.
So I think this
There you
one
go.
is like maybe below, but I think this one is still in that same genre and still holds up. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely a fun time. It was great to revisit it and have someone to bounce off and just come up with crazy ideas. That's the beauty of doing these things. Just having a laugh and showing people how insane you are. Maybe that's not a good thing, but hey, I'm enjoying myself. Chris, just want to say, mate, thanks very much for coming on and taking part. Absolute pleasure to have you, and it's been an absolute fun episode and great chat.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Of course, folks, coming to the new year, we'll be doing our horrific talk spot. Dropping a horrific tale again on Friday, and this Friday / Saturday morning, I'll be guesting on the Dragonlance channel for a one-shot game. With plenty planned out for the new year. So keep up to date with the channel, do the typey clicky things, and until next time, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.